Now we're going to get into the Week 13 picks for some of the top games. It is rivalry week. We're going to start with Oregon State and Oregon. Bo Nix putting up some crazy numbers last week in Oregon's win, and then Oregon State, of course, coming off of that loss to Washington. You guys are on opposite sides of the total here, though, right?
Yeah, I actually like the over the best of anything. I think in this particular play, I think there'll be a good amount of scoring between Oregon and Oregon State. That just number doesn't look quite as big, and I think Oregon knows too. If they're going to win, they need to win in an impressive fashion. This is another resume builder, in my opinion. And look, if this game was in Corvallis, different feeling. Probably would take the points in Oregon State. I just get concerned with what I saw last week from DJ Uiagalelei. When he's under duress, under pressure, we see the turnovers start to come into play, the inaccuracy, some of the things that we saw previously during his time at Clemson. This is the most balanced team right now, in my opinion, in the country, probably next to Georgia in Oregon. And you've got a Heisman candidate, probably the Heisman winner if he continues to play this way, in Bo Nix. 40 total touchdowns right now. He's taking care of the football. He's going to set an NCAA record for completion percentage. It's just ridiculous what Bo Nix has done this year. Some people would say you probably should if you played for 6 years. That being said, you don't want to take anything away. I'm going to lay the points here, too, with Oregon. I think they take
so you're taking Oregon. You're laying
I'm taking Oregon. I'll lay the points, but I like the over, too, in this one.
Okay, wow. So we're on opposite sides because my rundown here says Oregon State, that we're on the same side. You're going Oregon.
No, Oregon.
Okay, so you're on Oregon. I actually think rivalry game. So, and I'm on the other side because I think you have a correlated play then. You think Oregon blows them out, puts up enough points. I'm on the opposite side because I think Jonathan Smith, I think the run game will present some challenges. We saw them hold Washington's, offense to just 22 points, which is pretty impressive. Now, the weather was a huge impact. There was a bunch of drops. You saw them impacted. But I think they're going to try to slow this game down as much as they possibly can. And I'm curious about Bo Nix. He's been phenomenal this year. But we mentioned sort of since that game, they've been catching teams at a little bit more of a precarious position and blowing them out. This will be their stiffest test yet. So I think totally, opposite ends. I think they slow it down. I don't think Oregon can get those style points. I think they win, but it's probably by between 7 and 10 points.
Yeah. A huge, probably arguably the biggest matchup here. We have two undefeated powerhouses, Ohio State, Michigan. Michigan favored at 3.5. Harbaugh, he's not going to be on the sidelines for Michigan for this matchup. Huge CFP implications on the line. Danny, how do you think it plays out?
So I am actually going with history as an indicator of future results, which it's not always the case, as they tell you in the stock market. But I'm going to go ahead and back Michigan here. Wow. I hate the number because I think it's probably around a field goal. And I think if it does drop around, though, you'll see money come in on Michigan. So it's probably not going to move very much here. And you might ask, well, this feels crazy because Ohio State, they've been blowing out their last two opponents. They're getting right. Kyle McCord playing a little bit better. J.J. McCarthy, comes in limping into this game. Figuratively, possibly. Looks like he's banged up. He's playing with something. Didn't have to throw it in the second half. Did not play great against Maryland this past weekend. But I still think until I see Ohio State live up to the physicality of this game, which has been squarely in Michigan's favor, I'm going to back the home team here, and I think they're going to find ways to pressure Kyle McCord before he can get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., because Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player on the field, and if he has time and he can find him, they will win, but I think Michigan's going to have a plan.
I've got this game entirely different. These are two teams in different directions. Ohio State has continually ascended this season, in particular with their defense and their running back in Trayvon Henderson. Last 4 games, averaging 125 yards per game, 5 touchdowns. That actually would put him up there per game average, up to the top 3 in the country. He's running so well. He's a legitimate home run hitter, and they needed to have that element back in the backfield to protect how defenses play Marvin Harrison. You can't put too much attention on Marvin Harrison Jr. when you've got a running back like that. And on top of it, you still have Emeka Egbuka and Cade Stover, who caught a couple touchdown passes the past 2 weeks. He's going to be that X factor for Ohio State on offense as well. So as long as McCord just manages it all, I think he can make enough big throws and plays offensively. But I talked about the defense being the difference. Here's an interesting stat. Jim Knowles has done a superb job with eliminating the big plays. Last year, they gave up 18 plays over 40 yards. 18, that Ohio State defense. This year, only 1. If you go back to look at the past couple of years, this Ohio State-Michigan game, it's really come down to a few big plays towards the end of the game where Michigan's been able to separate themselves. Roman Wilson left last week with a shoulder injury. You already talked about J.J. McCarthy. He's got that left ankle injury that's battling. He's battling, and it has not looked as good throwing the football. Left tackle Ladarius Henderson missed last week. Their backup, Miles Hinton, he came in. He left with an injury. And the right side of the offensive line has struggled to protect J.J. McCarthy. They couldn't protect. They had to run the ball in the second half versus Penn State because they could not stop Chop Robinson. I'm not saying Ohio State's pass rushers on the same level as Chop Robinson, but JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, those guys can get after it. This is going to be a really tough matchup for Michigan this year. I'm taking the 3.5 points, and we don't need them because they're going to win outright right now.
If Ryan Day pulls this win off, I guarantee, like the surest bet of all, if you think he went after Lou Holtz after the game, wait till you hear his rant after the game talking about, hey, this is the first time we played him fair and square. He's going to take shots at Harbaugh, shots at the cheating scandal. That is a guarantee he will go off.
The other side of it, I would say, given the circumstances around Michigan, if he doesn't win it, then you say if not now, then when. Outside of this game being in Ann Arbor, I think you've got to love where your team's at and what Ohio State has built themselves into. They're back being that physical team on both sides of the football that wins this particular matchup.
And you got to think if you're Ohio State and you see that Michigan defense letting up the most points they did all season against Maryland, you probably feel a little bit better about it. Let's talk about the Iron Bowl, Bama and Auburn. And guys, we've talked about this Bama team. Have they found their identity? It seems like they have. They have won 9 straight, and this is an Auburn team that just lost to New Mexico State. That is a tough loss. Bama is double-digit favorites. Brady, do you think they cover that easily?
I'll lay the points here. I don't feel great about it because it's a rivalry game and crazy things happen in college football. But and look, maybe Auburn was overlooking New Mexico State and they were looking towards the Iron Bowl matchup. It's hard to imagine, though, them being able to hang close. I mean, it basically starts with stopping Jarquez Hunter in the running game, and that's it. Like, if you shut down the running game for Auburn, they should be able to cover this number. Jalen Milrow's been fantastic so far this year. 31 total touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He's completing 66% of his passes. We were concerned early. I have zero concerns about where this offense is at now, and their defense is right next up to Georgia in the SEC play. You can't say the same about Auburn with where they're at right now. They've struggled throwing the football. It's been the Hunter show, basically. You shut down the running game, you win, and you cover. So that's what I'm banking on here.
Auburn did play Georgia tight. They had them. Georgia won by a touchdown, if I remember correctly. That was the game Carson Beck found Brock Bowers. It ain't gonna happen the same way. I was trying to like talk myself. It's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
It's at Auburn. You know, is there a chance? But I can't envision a scenario. They are so limited offensively with what they can do. Peyton Thorne has not been great. They've been trying to run him actually more. Remember against Georgia, they were running him and Robbie Ashford.
Yeah.
I wonder if Hugh Freeze has some sort of tricks up his sleeve where maybe he can put points on the board. Like, I gave it under, but I actually don't love that. I just like Alabama, just lay them, because I do think maybe you either get a backdoor cover, or we were talking about playoff scenarios. Alabama, I don't know.
They have to win impressively. They have to.
Exactly. So you get a chance to kind of put the hammer down, get a touchdown or two late. I think they'll take advantage of it. So I think my favorite play is just lay them with Alabama. I don't love the hook, but I don't think it's going to matter.
I'll tell you this much. When you really look at the season, you kind of divide it first half, second half. Alabama has looked like one of the best teams in the country in the second half. Now, Georgia has as well, and they're on a collision course.
Yeah.
But when you're really talking about like that eye test, Alabama's looked every bit of it. Tommy Rees has got this offense headed back in the right direction.
And that's 3:30 on CBS. Our girl Jenny Dell on the call there. Let's talk about best bets for college football here. Danny, why don't you take it away?
This is perfect for me, Jacqueline, because we have a little rivalry. I'm assuming there'll be some side action. If you want some, gladly we can take some on.
Oh, okay. That's what's happening here.
This is what's happening. Okay, gotcha. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take it to Gainesville, where Florida State is traveling there without Jordan Travis. I don't think it matters. Tate Rodemaker has already played. He's come off the bench last year against Louisville on the road. Pretty hostile environment. They're trailing. He comes in, doesn't panic. This past weekend, I know it's North Alabama, but they still needed to come back. He looked impressive in that. Most importantly, the supporting cast is still there all around him. He just has to not make the big mistake. I don't think he will. And don't forget, Florida is also playing a backup in Max Brown, who we haven't seen as much. I think he's going to be under more duress. So I'm going to go ahead and back Florida State, lay the 6.5, and they start to impress and make their case for the playoff.
Okay.
You're really keeping your fingers crossed on that one.
No, I'm saying it with confidence.
Okay,
with confidence.
Yes. It's my best bet.
I've got another rivalry game, South Carolina, Clemson. I like the under of this particular game. Clemson's the #1 total defense in the ACC. They only give about 21 points per game. And South Carolina struggled to score this year. They average about 28 points per game, which is 9th in the SEC. Here's the problem with that. They scored over 20 points 5 times this year. 3 of those times, okay, Furman is one, Jacksonville State's another, then Vandy, who's the worst defense in the SEC. So when you're kind of looking at the numbers of this too, it's a little bit skewed. So I think this one stays on the under. Clemson's defense shuts down South Carolina, not a ton of scoring.
They want revenge from last year too, Clemson.
For sure,
so they want to shut them down.
I think they want revenge versus everyone who's said that they're not there anymore right now. There's been a lot of talk against Clemson this year. So.
And usually I would have a rebuttal for Danny, but it is a special day. It is your birthday.
Yes.
So I him.
How many years, John?
45. That's
45, right?
Michael Jordan baseball
So
number.
people shouldn't go to Wikipedia to confirm
definitely.
that.
They can go to my Facebook and look.
Yeah, it says happy 50th birthday on the screen. They're doing you dirty, Danny.
You look great, man. You
Thank
do.
you.
You've aged well.
I am, but I'm still
Dr. Kanell has the genetics.
That's right. He does.
Yeah, Danny Kanell's birthday. I'm not saying anything about the Gators. That is my gift
That's your
to
birthday
you.
gift. There's not much you can say.
If Florida wins and it's no longer your birthday, all bets are off. DK, Brady, Quinn going through their best bets for college football. And of course, you can hear Danny on the latest episode of the Cover 3 podcast. The guys are going down all of the latest matchups, also talking about Florida State's future without Jordan Travis. You can download and listen wherever you get your pods, or you can scan that QR code.